The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and quiet desperation. Sarah Mitchell sat perfectly still in the waiting room chair, her beige dress unwrinkled despite the hours she had been there. At 28, she carried herself with the practiced grace her father's wealth had taught her, but her eyes held something no money could buy: fear. Her father, Richard, stood behind her, arms crossed, his expensive suit of armor against emotions he refused to show. He was a man who built empires with phone calls and crushed competitors before breakfast. But he could not fix his daughter. The accident 3 months ago had stolen her hearing. Now, they were here at Riverside Medical Center for what felt like the 100th consultation. A young doctor in blue scrubs approached them. His name tag read Dr. Lucas Chun. He was perhaps 32, with kind eyes that had seen enough suffering to develop compassion, but not so much that he had become numb to it. Lucas had reviewed Sarah's file that morning. Another case of profound hearing loss following trauma. Another wealthy family seeking miracles. He had seen dozens like them. What he had not expected was a look in her eyes when he introduced himself. Not hope exactly, more like the memory of what hope used to feel like. Sarah read his lips as he explained the options again. Surgery with uncertain outcomes. Implants that might help or might not. The same words every other specialist had offered. She watched his hands as he spoke. They moved gently, expressively, not with the practiced gestures of someone trying too hard, but with natural eloquence. Lucas noticed her watching. He slowed down, made sure she could follow every word on his lips. Richard Mitchell interrupted with questions about success rates and costs. Lucas answered professionally, but his attention kept returning to Sarah. There was something about her quiet dignity that moved him. After consultation, Richard wanted to discuss payment plans and schedules. But Lucas found himself asking Sarah if she had considered learning sign language. Her father answered for her that they were focused on restoring her hearing, not accepting the disability. Sarah's jaw tightened slightly. It was the only sign of disagreement she allowed herself. Lucas handed her his card directly, not to her father. He wrote on the back in clear letters that she could call him if she had questions. Any questions at all. That evening, Lucas returned to his small apartment where his 7-year-old daughter Emma was working on homework at the kitchen table. His wife had passed 2 years ago from cancer. Since then, it had been just the two of them. Emma looked up with a smile that still had the power to mend his hardest days. They made dinner together, as they always did. She talked about school and her friends. He listened the way he wished more parents would. Simply present, simply there. Later, after Emma was asleep, Lucas thought about Sarah Mitchell. He had seen that look before in patients who were drowning, not in their disability, but in other people's pity and expectations. 3 days passed before his phone rang with an unknown number. Sarah's voice was hesitant when she spoke. She asked if they could meet, not as doctor and patient. She needed someone to talk to who understood. They met at a quiet cafe near the hospital. Sarah had come alone, which Lucas suspected was an act of rebellion against her father. She had brought a notepad and pen. Lucas knew some basic sign language from a rotation in his residency. He offered to use it. Her face transformed. For the first time, someone was meeting her in her world instead of demanding she climb back into theirs. They talked for 2 hours. She wrote that her father loved her, but could not accept what had happened. Every conversation became about fixing her, curing her, returning her to normal. She was exhausted from being a problem to solve. Lucas shared his own story, losing his wife, raising him alone, learning that strength sometimes meant accepting what you could not change. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She wrote that no one had talked to her like this since the accident, like she was still a whole person. Their friendship grew over the following weeks. Lucas would stop by the cafe after his shifts. Sarah would be waiting with coffee and her notebook. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence. He taught her more sign language. She was a quick learner, hungry for this new way of communicating. One afternoon, Richard Mitchell appeared at the hospital demanding to see Lucas. His face was red with anger. He accused Lucas of taking advantage of his daughter, of encouraging her to give up. Lucas stood his ground quietly. He explained that he was helping Sarah find a path forward, not backward. Richard threatened to report him. to ruin his career. Lucas simply said that Sarah was an adult who could choose her own friends. The older man left, but not before warning Lucas to stay away. Sarah called that night, upset and apologetic. Her father had forbidden her from seeing Lucas. She was 28, but still lived under his roof, dependent on his support. Lucas told her that the choice was hers. He would be her friend regardless of what her father wanted, but he understood if she needed to step back. Sarah made a decision that night. She moved into a small apartment downtown, taking only what she could carry. Her father cut her off financially. For the first time in her life, she was truly free and truly terrified. Lucas helped her find a job at a nonprofit that worked with deaf children. The pay was modest, but the work gave her purpose. She discovered she had a gift for connecting with the kids. They saw in her someone who understood their world. Months passed. Sarah bloomed in her independence. She learned to navigate the world on her own terms. Lucas remained her steady friend, never pushing for more. Emma adored Sarah. The three of them would have dinner together on weekends. Sarah taught Emma sign language. The little girl picked it up faster than either adult. One Saturday evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sarah and Lucas sat on his apartment balcony. The city lights spread before them like scattered stars. Sarah took his hand. She signed slowly that she had something to tell him. He had given her back her life, not by fixing her hearing, but by seeing her as whole. She loved him, not as a doctor or friend, but as a man. Lucas felt his heart crack open. He had kept his distance out of professionalism and respect. But the truth was he had fallen for her months ago, for her courage, her kindness, her quiet strength. He signed back that he loved her too. Their kiss was gentle, full of promise and patience. A year later, Richard Mitchell received a wedding invitation. He stared at it for a long time. His pride war with his love for his daughter. In the end, love won. He showed up at the small ceremony. Sarah's face when she saw him was worth more than all his wealth. Father and daughter embraced. No words were needed. Richard had learned some sign language. He was clumsy with it, but he tried. That effort meant everything to Sarah. Lucas welcomed him with quiet grace. No triumph, no resentment, just acceptance. At the reception, Richard gave a speech. He talked about how he had tried to fix his daughter, when what she needed was someone to believe she was not broken. He thanked Lucas for being that person, for having the wisdom he lacked. Sarah and Lucas built a life together, simple but rich in the ways that mattered. Emma gained a mother who listened with her whole heart. Sarah found a family that spoke her language. Years later, Richard would tell people that his greatest achievement was not the fortune he built. It was learning to let go, to trust that his daughter knew her own path, and that sometimes the greatest help we can offer is simply to believe in someone. The end. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that celebrate the quiet courage of everyday people. And comment below about a time when someone believed in you when you needed it most. Your story might inspire someone else. Thank you for listening.